Me and my friends got together a little while ago and asked the age-old question of what if we made a game? We didn't know what that would look like and we didn't know how we would do that, but we sat down and were more serious about it than we expected. So for the past 6 weeks, we have gotten together every Saturday for a minimum of 3 hours and worked on a game together. It started with just concepts and then models and then bringing everything into Unreal Engine, and we've come a long way. The first video I posted was of our first game attempt. What we got done with that one was we had a character that you could walk around in a world with, which Unreal Engine already gives you for free technically, and you could walk up to other characters and talk to them, and then you could hit E on doors and go through them. That was it. That's what we got done in 4 weeks. This one, we kind of have an actual game, so I'm gonna get to that right now. So this is our main menu screen. Rat Rumble is the name of the game, and first of all, we have a main menu. We have UI elements that actually work. We have splash art, and you load into a level. This is the lab. You were a scientist, and your lab rats got out of their cages. They mutated, and they escaped. You're looking around, sort of gathering clues to this story. You notice they've even stolen your parentheses dangerous weapon, and it's time for you to go after them. Here, there's sort of a crate in the way that was supposed to be destructible. We never got to that. But of course, you go past the crate and you find yourself in the sewers where your lab rats have multiplied and mutated. Important things to note here: the UI elements, again, very new things that we did not have in the last project. There's these rats, there's enemies with AI that die and try to follow you around. So it's a working combat system in a sense. And then on death, they have a chance to spawn a ring, sort of Sonic-esque coins basically, that you, the player, are able to pick up. Pickups are a big part of this game. I'm going to basically be going through, there's sort of 2 different routes. There's sort of this green route and then blue route, and both of them lead to the boss room at the end. But I sort of walk through both routes here. I go through the green route and then go back and go through the blue route so I can showcase everything. The green route is the one you go through to get to the speed boots. We have pickups, basically, different abilities the player can pick up and gain, buffs and stuff. So some of the thingies we incorporated here, we have platforming on top of just killing things. The enemy sound effects get a little bit repetitive and annoying, so hopefully I'm going to be turning them down a bit when I edit this video. Also, I fail the parkour a couple times because I didn't make it the most user-friendly, apparently. But once you make it, you get up to this tube here, and you find the speed boots. And each time you find an item, you hit E to pick it up, and you get a little dialogue thing. And it sort of gives you a little bit more of the story as you go through these sewers, and you keep finding your equipment and your items that have been dragged down here by the rats. And this is the gap from earlier that I would be able to cross now, since I have those speed boots. I do think it's also worth mentioning, when we started this game, our scope was actually too small. We had sort of been wary of making a too big of a scope for our game, so we kept it incredibly short. So literally our goals were to make a character that is able to die and make an enemy that is able to be killed. Based on our own concepts and models. And that was literally all we had in mind for this 6-week project. And what that ended up doing actually is we way overstepped to correct it. We started adding more and more goals because we finished those things in 2 weeks. So we said, holy crap, we're done with all that stuff and we have 4 weeks left. Let's make different enemy types. Let's try to make the AI more complicated. Let's make a whole new map. Let's make abilities to pick up. Let's make UI stuff. Let's make a boss into boss room and boss mechanics. And ironically enough, the small scope in the beginning actually led to us creating a much too big scope, where the project started getting more stressful because we had a new set of goals that was actually too big. I think that is probably the biggest mistake we made with this project, is we started to overstep our own sort of limitations. Everything you see besides the hands and the gun were created by us, but the music is not. and the person that made the music is in the description down below, and I'll put a little thing up on the screen too of their name. Everything else in the game was completely done by the three of us. You know, it's sort of ironic. There's the talk of like, don't reinvent the wheel, but at the same time, we're doing this just to learn, so it sort of makes sense for us to try to do as much of it by hand as possible so that we know how to do these things, and then we can sort of develop our own library of assets, you know, concept art, meshes, models, textures, materials, shaders. We've got like post-processing stuff, so that's why it looks like it's a cell shader, and there's also like pixelation. We have our own shaders going on. Blueprints, we have all these new systems now, so we have a health system, we have enemies, we have AI, we have pickups, we have UI elements, we have a main menu, we have different levels that the character is loaded into. When you die, you're sent back to end screen and you get to restart the game. There's a lot of different blueprint stuff going on of when this thing dies, this thing drops, or when this thing does something else happens. And we did this for the past 6 weeks, but we are college students and finals came up and winter break and all these things are coming up. So we are sort of postponing the next game project. We are intending to do another game project, but during winter break, we're hoping to just sort of do some research and development and just get deeper into the things that we want to learn about. And we also talked about not doing a full game next time. While we learned a lot from it, and it's pretty cool to be able to show off and potentially like create a exe file and just publish it somewhere or send it to friends, it's not the most efficient thing when it comes to learning how to make games. And what I mean by that is it could have been 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and we could have just learned about AI systems, because that's a huge part of making a game like this, and we could have learned if we wanted to work with that kind of stuff. So I think in the future we might make smaller scope, even in that we're gonna do less of a full game. So still projects, still goals, but somewhere between the goals we set at the beginning of this project and the goals we set at the end of this project. Some sort of happy balance, hopefully. Something I think we did really well with is reusing assets. You know, we had this very small amount of models because I was the one modeling, and then I wanted to do material stuff. I wanted to do cell shaders. I wanted to do level design. I was sort of all over the place. So we had to get really creative with how we were reusing our models throughout the entire game. I'm pretty happy with it. The other big problem we ran into though is we made the world too big. We made these sewers and these, you know, rooms just gigantic, and there's just too much room to fill for 3 guys making a game. And that's another important thing, is like scope doesn't always mean actually the size of your goals. It can literally be the size of your game. And so there's a lot of empty space, and a lot of these rooms aren't as fun as they could have been because we just made too many of them, which I think is another important thing. Like, if you make a smaller area, you have less stuff to fill, and you just make a more fun short thing. So finally, we've made it to the door to the boss room. I've gotten all the pickups, I've got a double jump speed boost, and a really fast firing rate, and we've made it to the boss room. We've of course got the same text box system with really nice profile art of the boss, Dr. Ratowski. And this is the boss room. I think it's the most interesting environment we got out of this game. We've got a couple interesting mechanics going on. So 3 different types of rats are spawning right now. There's the sort of big rats, there's the red ones that drop health, and then there's the tiny ones. Those things that I just exploded there, those little glass tubes with the scientific goop, when you break them, their corresponding spawner stops working. So if you break all the tubes, all the other rats stop spawning, and it's a lot easier to kill the boss. We also had kind of a lot of fun with making the boss. It's almost exactly the same as all the other rats, it's just faster and has way more health. What I thought was really clever though is Aiden, our, in-house blueprint / coding guy, made it so that instead of knockback, if the boss is hit while it's in the air, it actually leaps forward. And it's sort of just jarring enough that it makes some sort of interesting pacing and stuff like that. Besides that, that's about everything. Yeah, we made a game though. I mean, it's sort of a clickbait kind of thing to say, and it's not exactly perfect in any way, but we did actually make a game. We even have a tribute to the giant rat that makes all the rules. If you shoot this tube in the middle like 55 times or something obscure like that, it spawns in a giant rat who is too big for his own good. He can't actually use the normal AI tracking stuff that all the other rats use because he's literally too big. It just breaks as soon as he spawns in. But that's our game. We hopefully will be putting out a couple more videos over the next month or so of sort of research and development type stuff, maybe tutorials or whatever. We're just going to be sort of pursuing random interests with blueprints, maybe material creation, just random stuff that we didn't really get into with this game, and hopefully those studies we're doing might actually lead into stuff for the next game. That's really all we've got. Last piece of advice is if you want to try to do something like this, set goals, give yourself a time frame, and actually just do it. Like, this is not perfect, and it never would have been. But we're learning and we're documenting it and we're putting it out there, and it's really fun. You can probably do what we're doing, so if you want to, you should. Thank you for watching. Leave a like, leave a comment, leave a subscribe, do whatever you want. Have fun, and goodbye.